Well, the Nationalists had been rebuffed. They could not depend upon Knox. They could not depend upon Washington. Who might they turn to now? General Gates. General Gates kept his headquarters at a place called Ellison House, not far from the Newburgh encampment. Here is an example where it's often important for an historian to go and see a place that you're writing about. There had been many stories told since these events that General Gates was unaware of what was going on, that he didn't know of any conspiracy. Well, I visited Ellison House. It's a lovely house, built, as they say, in the Dutch style. Stone house. 4 rooms up, 4 rooms down. It was in this house that General Gates kept his headquarters. The Gates, occasionally. His guard, his aides, his servants. And there was even a small hospital in the building. And, by the way, the Ellisons were still in residence. It was a crowded place. It would have been impossible for anything to have gone on of any importance in that house that everyone in that house would not have been aware of. And so then, it is General Gates to whom the Nationalists turn. General Gates has surrounded himself with some young adjutants. Young men, not inexperienced, but not completely experienced either. They worship General Gates. They call him, by the way, Granny Gates. They think of him affectionately. They will do anything for him, and they will do anything for the Republic. Officers named Armstrong, in particular, Major Armstrong, is key and central to this figure. Word arrives from Philadelphia that the Nationalists have failed in their attempts at Knox and Washington. When that word arrives at Ellison House, General Gates's staff goes to work, in particular, Major Armstrong. An officer from Philadelphia, Colonel Stewart, arrives on the 8th of March, Saturday, the 8th of March, bringing news of what's happening or what's not happening in Philadelphia. The next day, the 9th, the officers at Ellison House are busy, in particular, Major Armstrong. They are preparing an address. We know this for certain because the original copy of the address is in Armstrong's hand. The next day, Monday, March the 10th, this address appears at the Temple of Virtue, the headquarters of the encampment. It is anonymous, but it begins, "Gentlemen, a fellow soldier whose interests and affections bind him strongly to you, whose past sufferings has been as great and whose future fortunes may be as desperate as yours, would beg leave to address you. Will Congress address our wrongs, or will they trample on our rights? If peace comes and we put down our swords, what then?" The address called for a meeting the next day, Tuesday, March the 11th, at the Temple of Virtue of all of the officers in the encampment to discuss these important issues. Washington, of course, quickly saw this address and issued a general order canceling the meeting on Tuesday. It had been called without his permission. This could not happen. But in canceling the meeting on Tuesday, he knew that he had to have an alternative. And so he said, he, the commander-in-chief, would call a meeting for Saturday, March the 15th at noon. The next day, Wednesday, the following day on Thursday and Fridays, much went on in the encampment as everyone prepared for this meeting that was to take place Saturday, noon, March 15th, in the Temple of Virtue. What might it be? What might happen? Washington announced that he would not be at the meeting. The senior general in command would preside, that being, of course, General Gates.